So, one of the reasons I just love the horror genre is it's the only genre. Okay, not the only genre. Right? That's incorrect, but it is the most visceral genre out there. And well, a lot of people could definitely say that modern horror is quote unquote dead. I don't think that's completely true. I mean, okay, every once in a while you're gonna get your It Follows, your Freaks, your I don't know, Curse of La Llorona. Every once in a while you're gonna get one of those movies where it just feels very dumbed down. But then in the mix, you will get a movie that's completely visceral and original. And I feel like a lot more horror movies these days have been doing that. Now, a lot of them haven't been in wide release, so that's kind of a shame. But I feel like now Blumhouse, I would actually say, is starting to kind of step up their game. Sure, they had a flop with Fantasy Island and that Black Christmas movie, but amongst those, you get movies like Get Out, and now The Invisible Man, which is the movie I'm going to talk about today. This movie's been directed by Leigh Whannell, who made one of my favorite movies of 2018, Upgrade. And Upgrade was just this really, really provocative science fiction action movie that had a pretty cool commentary on technology and the relationship the human body might end up sharing with technology in the near future. So I feel like that was a really cool movie, and that movie is also produced by Blumhouse. So yeah, I feel like that movie was actually really, really good, and that was definitely one of the best movies of 2018. And now it seems Leigh Whannell is back with The Invisible Man, or his take on The Invisible Man. So this movie stars Elizabeth Moss as this woman who is being abused by her, I guess you could say, tech developer fiance, and she actually escapes his house. Like, I guess the abuse has gone so far where she actually has to escape his house or something. So that kind of happens in the beginning, and you kind of get a sense of how this guy is, like, just how much of an asshole this guy is. And then she gets news. This is not really, I don't consider this a spoiler. There's actually a lot of reviews that do consider this a spoiler, but this is in the trailer. Like, all the trailers have this story element in it. So I don't consider this a spoiler, but you know what? Let's just say you, for some reason, are going into this blind without even knowing anything about this movie. So, spoiler alert, I guess. She finds out that her abusive fiance killed himself, and it's kind of like this relief. Like, it's kind of like a relief, but at the same time, I don't know, it's not, I guess, because, you know, it's kind of hard to explain. I feel like it was bittersweet in the end. In the end, everything was very bittersweet when she heard this news. Like, she was happy he was gone and dead. But at the same time, she still had that weight of his abuse, like, still on her shoulders. So it was like, woo, happy moment. It was kind of just like I said, bittersweet moment. And that's kind of where it starts. So she starts being harassed by what, I mean, if this is a cliched movie, what could be assumed to be a poltergeist. Just, you know, an invisible force flinging things around a room and stuff like that and just tormenting her. And she is very convinced, or she is like just convinced that this is her dead abusive fiance coming back to kind of like to haunt her. And that's where that's mostly, that is the basic premise of this movie. That is the basics of this movie. But this movie, okay, so I'm going to assume that everybody watching this might already know what the Invisible Man is. And if you don't, let me just give you a little recap. The Invisible Man was I think it was a novella written by H.G. Wells and made into a whole slew of movies. The most famous is the Universal Monster movie from 1933. And that's kind of, I feel like when you look up Invisible Man, that's kind of the basic image, is the image of the Invisible Man from the Universal Monsters movie, where he's wrapped up almost like a mummy with these goggles on, a fedora, and a reddish looking, like, I would say, nah, what's the, oh, damn it, robe, like this reddish looking robe. And that's usually the basic image of the Invisible Man. So Leigh Whannell took that idea and he kind of put a very visceral twist on that idea, because the Invisible Man, I mean, it's not scary. Or, okay, I should rephrase. The Universal Monsters one, it's not scary. I mean, really, let's just face it. Which Universal Monster movies are really still that scary to this day? So, it's not that scary, of course. And obviously, honestly, like, the whole idea, it's just a guy who's invisible pranking people, kind of. That's literally what happens in that movie. It's fun. Like, don't get me wrong, that movie is a blast. Like, it is truly a fun ride. But I mean, it's not a horror movie. I mean, a lot of people say it is. I personally think it's a sci-fi movie. It's a science fiction movie. It's a good piece of science fiction. I don't think it's a horror movie by any means. Leigh Whannell took that concept and made it very gritty, and to the point where it actually did get legitimately terrifying in a lot of moments. Honestly, this is one of the best horror movies I've seen in the 21st century. Like, legitimately, this is one of the best horror movies I've seen in a while. I feel like as a horror movie, this movie was better than Us, was better than Midsommar. I mean, it was better than The Witch. I feel like this movie was legitimately a good horror movie. Not only because it actually did a lot of things right. It knew when to scare you. It knew when to throw a jump scare in there. And it didn't do the whole annoying jump scare stinger. It was... The jump scare felt natural. It didn't feel like it was forced. It felt like that scene, it needed to be there. And this movie, I feel like the concept of the Invisible Man, it's not that terrifying. Honestly, I mean, it's not. It's just a crazy dude who's invisible, just going around and literally just pranking people, being a troll, an internet troll. But this version is actually legitimately terrifying. It's a sociopath it's kind of like, let's give Ted Bundy some, like, the ability to make himself invisible. Let's do that. And that's kind of this movie. That's kind of what happens in this movie, is legitimately that. And it doesn't fail. This movie pays off. I mean, the trailers for this movie, they're campy. Like, the trailers for this movie, I didn't think this movie looked great. The only thing that kept me sticking with this movie, I mean, when the trailers were out and everything, was that Leigh Whannell's name was attached to it as both the writer and director. And because I think I can trust Leigh Whannell, since first of all, he gave me one of my favorite of the Insidious movies, which was Chapter 3. And then he gave me Upgrade. And now he's given me The Invisible Man. I'm just like, I just feel like I can trust this guy. I can definitely, when this guy's name is on a movie, I feel like I can just trust him. And that's kind of the mentality I had when I was watching all the trailers and advertising for this movie. And then I actually watched the actual movie. There is not a hint of camp in this movie. I wouldn't say there is any type of camp or cheesiness in this movie. To the point where the trailers are almost a little misleading because of how campy they make the movie look. This movie is legitimately just a thrill ride. Like, it is a terrifying thrill ride. This movie, I'm not kidding. This movie was scary. Like, this movie was really, really scary. I mean, if you read my review for it on Letterboxd, which you guys should, link in the description, you guys should check it out. If you read that review, I mentioned that this movie, I feel like, would scare even the most die-hard horror movie fan. And the reason I said that is because I actually am a die-hard horror movie fan. I'm not scared of The Exorcist. I'm not scared of Rosemary's Baby. But I do love those movies. I do generally love those movies. But I don't think they're terrifying. Even when I was younger, I didn't think those movies were terrifying at all. And so I feel like there's a lot of movies that are considered scary that I don't feel are terrifying or scary in any type of the sense. But then this movie comes along and is legitimately one of the scariest movies I feel like I've seen, because I feel like if you do understand the concept that this movie's trying to present, or the themes that this movie's trying to present, I feel like you will understand why this movie is legitimately terrifying, rather than just having some brutal and visceral death scenes in this movie. The death scenes in this movie, they're brutal. Like, legitimately, these death scenes, I feel like these death scenes made me cringe more than any death scene in a Saw movie. And I feel like it's just because the blood effects, or the gore effects, and the way the death scene looks, it looks like a real person just got killed. It doesn't look like Saw or something where it's overly gory. It looks like a real person got murdered. And because of that, it's just so brutal and visceral. But you won't expect that. If you watch the trailers for this movie, you don't expect there to be that brutal of death scenes in this movie. You don't expect the brutality and visceralness of this movie to be there. You just expect this to be maybe a fun, entertaining little horror thriller. But what you end up getting is legitimately one of the scariest, not just scariest horror movies, but also one of the scariest stalker movies that you'll most likely ever see on the big screen. I mean, I like The Gift. There's a movie with Joel Edgerton called The Gift, which is a stalker movie, and And I remember really loving that movie, and I still do. I feel like that movie is one of the scariest stalker movies I've ever seen. I think this movie is legitimately scarier than that. That movie's good, and that movie's scary. This movie is flat out horrifying at times. There's times where Elizabeth Moss is just getting flung around a room, and it's scary and terrifying because because realistically, if somebody who was invisible happened to fight you, how are you going to fight back against something you can't even see? You can't even physically see. How are you going to fight back? And I feel like that, just thinking about that, made it even more horrific and kind of scary. And legit, there's a lot of terrifying things in this movie. Honestly, like I said, it is one of the best horror movies I've seen in a while. I mean, I feel like I say that a lot. I say like Hereditary, Midsommar, or Us were some of the best horror movies I've seen in a while. But I feel like this movie legitimately takes the cake, because this movie actually made me scared. And this movie, I don't think holds any punches. Like, this movie is visceral to its core. It's not holding any punches or anything. And this movie is definitely a mature horror movie. This is not a horror movie that you go in, that's like a dumb movie. You go in and with like friends and laugh at whatever stupid things are going on. This is a real horror movie. Like, this is definitely a real, legitimate horror movie. So I recommend it. I definitely think you should go see The Invisible Man while it's still in theaters. I mean, I guess that is one cool thing that I like about this movie, is that it is in so many theaters. A horror movie this visceral and this good is actually in a huge amount of theaters across the nation. And I like that's happening. That horror movies are starting to go into more theaters, and they're not trying to be the next Conjuring or anything. Instead, they're trying to be their own legitimate thing. And I love that. I love that is legitimately happening. And I feel like this is a good example of that. That is just so cool to me, that this type of horror movie is in so many theaters. So I recommend this movie. I recommend The Invisible Man. It is such a great horror movie. It's a good movie. This is definitely going on my end of the year best list for this year. Legitimately, this is so far, this is probably my favorite movie of the year so far. So, yeah. This movie was legitimately, this was great, honestly. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And if you guys like this video, please, give it a big thumbs up. Check out all my social media in the down description below, because I'm going to leave a link to my Letterboxd account, or my Letterboxd profile. You guys should give me a follow on there if you want more movie reviews that I personally, either I don't want to make a video of it, or I just couldn't help myself, so I maybe write a little review of a movie and then I make a video of it later on. That's kind of what I did with this movie. I wrote a little review of it right after I got out of the theater, and now it's like 2 days later and I'm making a video about it. So yeah, definitely go check that out. And also, give me a subscribe. Just hit the subscribe button. It's literally right there. It's right there. It is right there. I don't know. It'll be up there. So, yeah, legitimately hit the subscribe button. And really, if you guys legitimately love this series, like you guys are completely into this, you should hit the bell icon, because then you'll be notified each time I upload another video just like this. So do that. And the next video I'm gonna make for the Cinephile, I'm gonna review a movie from the 90s called Safe. So yeah, I am looking forward to that. I legitimately am. And actually, you know what? No. Sorry. Scratch that. Okay, so I already pre-recorded a video that I'm going to upload next. I'm gonna save the name of the movie for the video. That video is a blast. Like, legitimately, that video was a blast to make. So, yeah. Check that out when it comes out. And I'll see you guys next time with another episode of The Cinephile. So, toodaloo.